How do we change the connection here? Front leg has to move across. And the front end has to move across with the left front behind in this direction so that we can open this shoulder. And she has to think about this part of the neck to create flexion. I don't want to take her there with the rein. I want to teach her which part of the neck has to be relaxed to create flexion and direction that way. This has to be relaxed in order for that leg to open. And when this leg starts to open, behind and across, not in front, behind and across, behind and across. When I go back here, this leg already started to move by itself. The knee starts to open. So we start to get the front end opening, makes room and space for the hind leg to come through. So the body will also change. You will become this shape more here, and this will get bigger. You will lose the horizontalness. So opening here, not stepping forward. So you can also practice with Saphira, so you get the feeling. And you're just as if, imagine you have a rider on top and you're just helping them to step to the side. Yeah? And that she's stepping behind and across. Yes. And no cheating with your right hand. Good. Good. Yeah, there. There. And relax again. Good. And now go back to the left hind and start to feel the front leg move first. Yes. Yes. Good. And relax again. So this will be the first exercise you practice with her. Sorry, second. You're going to feel her first. Let her feel where this is. So in the end, you can do this. And she says, oh yeah, sorry. So that becomes a tool you can use. We change sides again. I open the left front. I'm assuming because I did my own introduction, I'm also in control of my own time. Oh, good. It's my wife keeping control of me. Yes. Very good. And then feel it on the rein, and then let go. Feel it on the rein, and then let go. Here across. Here across. Yes. So as small as possible. And now you have to think, this is also going to give you awareness of your body language. Because you are normally in the technical aspect of riding. I can tell by the way you stand and the way you hold the rein and the way you guide the horse that you are basically a Formula One driver. You're in situations where things are going so fast and happening so quick and with so much pressure and so much on the line, and if you make one mistake, you're dead. And I can tell that because of the way you approach and you go into something. It's technical. What you have to start to feel is the order of movement. Most people think the order of movement is body language, the voice, and then the practical example. But actually, it goes deeper into feeling the process of the way you ask a horse something is first the sensation. So the sensation of doing it. The sensation of going without moving. What is the sensation of when you go across? And then the thought, I'm going across. And then the body language. And then the noise. And then the practical example of the rein, if we need the rein. Maybe we don't need the rein. And of course, the step brings her to this space. This will be the exercise you do when you go in the warm-up now, or you go in the ring and she's tense. You're going to stop and go. And then you go. Why the order of the way you ask something is important is the horse never gets softer than the first pressure you give. So when you ask her to go somewhere, if the first pressure you give is this one, you will always need that one. If it's a sensation, it's even before thought. If things get as light as a thought, it's already far. If it gets light as body language, without voice, it also still looks pretty good. If it gets to a little bit of voice, or the practical example, the leg, the rain, whatever it is. But if you practice those things in the conversation here, it will transfer there. You'll start to feel the body functions differently, and also the way you ask something is very different. So this is where we have to get to in that first part. And then we're going to start to ask, how long have we got? 1 hour. 6 hours? What?
6 hours.
It's a bit warm for these horses for that, I think. But so the next shape is to be able to take this pattern that we've just learned into impulsion. We're going to do that. So you can take my whip with all the magic in it, and I'll use the old shitty one from home. Hi, Mum. It's also the mummy thing, huh? Like, but it wasn't a, mummy, get me away from this guy. It was like, hey, Mum, that's pretty good, isn't it? Haven't felt like this in a space like this before. So the important part of the whip, we're going to do the same exercise as we did turning the hind legs, but just from this position. So for me, I try to explain it, it's like a clock. So if you look from above, I'm the center of the clock, horse is the hour hand, whip is the second hand. First thing they have to learn is the meaning of the whip. So if it's something they're running away from, they're going to go into a tension movement pattern. So we don't want them to be running from the whip. They have to learn that it's something they have to follow. So I'm just creating contact in the places that I did with my hand. So the explanation that I've already given is there, and we start to be able to have the same understanding. There's a little bit, so I go away. So as soon as I start to see her change the physiology, or she starts to get control of herself, so already now, the VIP dropped their wine glass. There was a surprise. We can all be surprised, but what happens after is important. So this is not a building up. It's not a stacking up. It's a new word now. There's always new words in horse training. Pressure stacking or habituation or something. It's not building up pressure. It's not getting worse and worse, basically. So when she hears something, she jumped. The jump made her think, oh, what happened there in my body? Hang on a minute. Oh, I can make that feel better. So it's already installed. The first part of the coding is there. So then the rubbing. And this is why the touching is important, because if I touch her with a stick and she's already doing this, she thinks I'm already jabbing her with an electric fence or something. It's not making a... So we have to teach her that it's not me or the whip, but it's your response to it. It's the narrative we tell ourselves that determines how we feel. So I was thinking that there was going to be 60,000 people here, and I was really, really nervous, and I spent 4 hours leading up to this thinking, shit, I don't know if I can speak in front of that many people. I'm going to be really nervous, and then Emma's going to think I'm a complete moron, and you have all this anxiety, and then you turn up and there's only the important people that are here. And then you just relax, you know? So it's very much the narrative that we tell ourselves, and that's also important for the horse. So feeling with the whip, look how good a student she is, people. I don't even have to instruct her anymore. So the first release was the explanation. You see, now I go touch her in the flank, touch her in the... I don't have to do it a lot of times. And there's a famous quote by a guy, an Australian guy, and he says, I can't even remember what he said now, actually. Something to do with, if your words have meaning, you don't have to say very many. So this part, where she started to run in the beginning, if we kept the pressure, she's just continuing to think about the running. If we look for the opportunity for her to have the right feeling, to have the right awareness, the next time we go there, it's already, she has a better awareness, she understands what she has to do with herself. And at the end, that's what it's about. She has to understand what to do with herself in each situation. So here now we can touch her in the flank with the rib, a little bit underneath the stomach. I want a reminder of this part of her body. So sometimes the combination of touching her and then saying, what's going on here? And she's like, oh, yeah, shit, hang on. I'm letting myself get into that state again. So just the awareness of that, this is really good. So the repeat of it, oh yeah, shit, I have to be here. And what I liked was in the beginning with the clapping and the streamer and the noise, she was in this crane position. This is very hard when you're riding. If the horse is having this automated in the crane position, I mean, you have to be as good as you to try, the Formula One driver to deal with that. And the fact that everyone clapped before meant that we could test how the body's functioning now, and she keeps bringing herself back to here. So most of the time, the people that are not really here and they're sort of hearing something but not listening fall asleep at this moment. But this is the most crucial bit. This is changing the horse's story. Every horse comes with a story. The real truth is here on the 4 legs. So then we start to think about horse training. Ask her to go a little bit backwards with my hand, body language, and then creating this shape. And I'm looking that the outside front leg moves first, and then I relax again. So thinking of pushing back, think of the sensation, the thought of asking you to move, the body language. The voice is the kiss noise. Yeah, and feeling this sensation. So there's no resistance then in the body. She's allowing the energy to go out. A lot of the time we think about where the energy is coming from, but we don't think about where the energy is going to. And if the energy can't go... It's all right. Don't go to sleep on us. If the energy hasn't got a place to go to, then the energy stays circulating in the body. There, and it becomes bad energy. So here's a good step. Here's a good step. And we look for those steps where she can do it herself. Try to be hands-free. So you start to go a little bit back, and then when she starts to move, you can be hands-free and let her create the shape. Let her be the hour hand from the clock, and the whip is the second hand. Very good. And the more they feel they can be independent in that movement, they take ownership of it. It's not us making them do something anymore. They feel like they're in control of themselves. If we ask them to move sideways, or we guide them into a certain movement, does our horse feel like they're being controlled, or do they feel like they're in control of themselves? So in this exercise, this is very important. This was the key for me when I started to have horses to be able to take good posture and good order of movement and take full ownership of it, that they do it themselves. That was the beginning of saying, I want to make a long half pass there. I'm going to have a sandwich, make a phone call, scratch my back. Oh, you finished the half pass already. Can you go that way? Okay, just going to scratch my ass. Oh, it's a nice day. Probably have a cup of tea. Oh, you're already that way. So that feeling of starting something and they say, I know what to do. And they continue that formation. And that is the secret for them feeling like they're in control of the situation and not being controlled, being kept. So this will be the next exercise that you'll practice.